Hey, it is your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today. Much love going out to all the beautiful, empowered harmonizers. We're zooming in and focusing in a little bit more in depth on a great viewer question, and that is, how can I let go of a toxic relationship? For some reason, I just seem to hang on. This is a great viewer question, and I think it harkens back to a little bit more of the self-assessment that one needs to do when emerging from types of relationships that have gone awry, that have become toxic, that have become overwhelming, that have been wrought with a history of fighting or betrayal, pathological lying, projection, brainwashing, gaslighting, the whole gamut. Even if you've been through a couple of these situations and for some reason you still want to hold on to the relationship, you need to really look at some of the components of your own personality that you are opening up to others that can cause this sort of bottoming out or gap or just sort of hole that creates sort of an influx of need to hold on to the relationship, particularly that of empathy. You have to really be careful with the degree of empathy that you open up and expose yourself to. So, and oftentimes this is done without boundaries or standards, which means you open up your heart, to the wrong people, or you open up your heart to the right people, but you open it up too much. You're taking on their situation. You're taking on their symptoms. You're trying to champion a cause for them to assist them. You are trying to make the world better, and you're doing that with the individuals around you. You're trying to help them, provide solutions, and to create relationships that are based on this foundation of care and trust. And let me be in your corner. But oftentimes that can backfire when an individual is so needy or so problematic or has personality situations which are going to be permanent, that create a continuous exposure to toxic needs. In other words, meaning they're just too much. There is a degree of irresponsibility or a lack of knowledge on the other person's part. They don't know how to assist themselves. They don't realize that because of lack of empathy or because of their self-absorption, that their energy is violatory in nature to others, which means it crosses boundaries. It's violatory in nature, which means it's sort of an aggressive or a yang energy where they're just sort of crying out. There's something in their energy, in their personality that is just kind of draws others to them who have to be supportive, stroking of their ego. They just need a lot of people to bolster them up, prop them up, give them things, give them words of encouragement. And this, in the world of a narcissist, they really have a good fit with people who have a lot of empathy, meaning you're sensitive and open to others' feelings, and you have an ability to feel what others are feeling. But this can backfire on people who have empathy and who have sort of opened themselves up to very needy people who are narcissistic or psychopathic, where you can open up that channel within you, and you don't realize that, unless you protect yourself and have boundaries and standards, that you can receive then a lot of their negative energy and carry that around with you. People experience this where they feel depressed for no reason. They feel a lack of energy. They don't feel themselves. They can't be there. They don't have enthusiasm. They can't give the way that they used to give. They feel that they're depleted. And then basically the problem is that with people who have a lot of empathy, that they kind of think what comes around will go around, and that if you are supportive to this individual, that you will get like in return, and then it's very upsetting when it doesn't balance the score. You don't get that back in return. You're not getting the support. In fact, usually It's, with certain individuals, you give them an inch, they're going to take a mile. Meaning that, once you give, once you're the shoulder, once you're the open heart, they always want that to be there. And then when you don't, you try not to be like in return, but as a natural human being, hey, it's got to be your time to have, to be able to discuss things that are going on or happenings in your life and not always focus on them. And when when it doesn't come back to you, as people kind of subconsciously think, it can be very, it can be kind of discouraging, or people can kind of be confused or be in kind of a fog that keeps them stuck in the relationship. They're kind of like waiting for things to come back. In other words, you might have invested a lot of time, energy, consideration, emotions. You've given them the time of day and then some. And, it doesn't come back in return. Oftentimes, you don't get as much as, a gratitude. You don't get a thank you. You don't get acknowledgement or validation. It's just, so people oftentimes can feel stuck and they're unwilling to let go of the relationship. And they maybe are waiting to settle the score or whatever the situation is that kind of makes it, you're ready for it to balance out. So they stay around, thinking that eventually this person will work through their situation, they'll work through their issues, they'll come to appreciate you, they'll see the light, they'll see how loving you are, how affectionate, and how lucky they are to have you. But yet with the narcissist, they're always kind of like waiting for something better. And they're always, these are the individuals, you can be out with them and then they're, scanning the room, they're scanning the mall, they're scanning the store, they're scanning the park, whatever it is, they're kind of always looking for something better. There's this dissatisfaction. And oftentimes people stay around because they think, well, who else would, give all this to you? So it can be kind of a stalemate feeling where it's, and then also, then caring for others becomes as sort of a security buffer or blanket that then people then seek in the relationship. But then that ultimately becomes one of hiding, because you're not, if you're unwilling to sort of leave that role that you have then adapted in the relationship, realize that it is an adapted role that you have adapted yourself. Maybe when you originally adopted it, you were unconscious, you were unaware, you were unknowing, you didn't know that this approach in relationship would be depleting, exhausting, not in your best interest, that people would basically be takers in the world and not give to you in return. There is no fair balance sheet, in certain relationships. Not all, but we're saying for some that have become toxic. So it becomes very important that you don't take your pride in what you've given to this person as the reason to stay. And ask yourself, really be willing to challenge yourself and ask yourself, why am I holding on so dearly to this relationship? What is this relationship really holding me back from? What is this relationship really buffering me from? What is this relationship really hindering me from or causing me to avoid? Has this relationship become an obstacle? Has it become out of balance? Has it become to the point where I'm looking to settle the score and I'm looking for retaliation or retribution? And if you are, especially that one of retribution, I find that's very common in people who have been in relationships with toxic others who might turn out to be narcissistic or psychopathic. They're looking for retribution. They're looking for payback. They're looking to settle the score. They're wanting to make it clear, to this person that they've done them wrong and that, you're looking for an apology and for them to appreciate you and, have this closure and have certain words said, have certain things expressed. And, if you're hanging around waiting for this, then you're going to really stalemate and stagnate yourself. because oftentimes you're not going to receive that from these individuals, because oftentimes they don't feel that they have done anything wrong. Not only is it that they're in denial, but they literally do not perceive that they have done anything wrong. So they, aren't going to be good companions for a discussion about how to improve in the relationship, because it's going to be one-sided. Those people with empathy usually, let things go too far. They, make too many sacrifices for others. They over-obligate. They try to overgive, make things too perfect, too nice. They take joy in giving, which is a positive, but then, they do it to a fault, meaning they're giving because they haven't received. And so they think that if they give, then that they will, receive in the giving. In some cases, yes, that can be the case, but in toxic relationships, it doesn't really come back full cycle to a sense of, a heart-to-heart connection. There is no reconnection. There is no receiving back. And then people then become very uncomfortable receiving compliments, receiving new relationships, receiving new solutions, and being perceptive of their own strengths. They can't see their own strengths anymore because they're so accustomed and used to and have a pattern to always seeing the strength in others. So they become blind to their own abilities, blind to their own capabilities, blind to their own inner light, their own talent, their own goodness. They don't feel that they possess a strong sense of self. They lose that perspective. So it's super important that, you learn to let go and to stop. Oftentimes, it's not behaviors that you only need to begin or change, but most often it's behaviors that you need to stop doing to help protect yourself and then shore up your boundaries. So stopping being overly empathetic for people who are very needy, meaning who need a lot of your attention, who need a lot of your concern, who need a lot of your stuff, who need your paycheck, who need your cooking, who need you to drive, who, need. And, there's pleasure in giving, yes, but what are you actually making sure that it's a two-way street, and that you don't continue to do that, and so it becomes such a rut that you don't feel comfortable receiving. A lot of people who have a lot of empathy absorb way too much of other people's energy, and they can't tune into their own. There's 2,000 voices, which one is mine? So you really need to get a grip, like literally hold tight, and get a grip on where your empathy is going and where your energy is going. Who are you opening yourself up to? And to what degree can you then manage that so that you can open it and then close it at your discretion, and realize when it is enough, so you maintain a balance sheet, like for your own empathy, if you will, so that you're not, opening up to the people who are going to be like vampiric in nature, meaning they're just going to take too much of your life energy, your lifeblood, too much of you, and then people just feel sort of, kind of an anticlimactic. They think that, they want to go back to that same place, that same relationship, to get their footing back, when it's actually, you need to do a scan of yourself and understand how empathy and being open and giving and over obligating perhaps has gotten you into trouble. It's important to understand this and to say, maybe I do have a degree of participation and responsibility with where I'm at right now. And to look and get a sense of what that is, and not because of shame, not because of embarrassment, not because, you feel defeated, but to say, and to reflect back and to say, what? I didn't see the red flags. I did too much of this. I did too much of that. I was too much of a listener. All we did was talk about them. All I did was talk about their symptoms. All I did, so there is no sort of, balance, to it. And you can see then where, you had been too much the caregiver, too much, in the servitude, to be of service. There's all these tenets in life which say it's good to do all these things, but you have to manage it and be careful to shore up these areas where there's been a gap or sort of too much empathy, meaning you're too sensitive to the energy of others. You're too, your heart goes out to them. You're very perceptive, have a lot of intuition. You can tell when someone's down. Oh, let me help this, let me help that, always helping others, which is noble. But yet, are you able to understand that you also need to be able to fill your cup at the same time? And you just don't want to empty yourself out through opening yourself up to a lot of empathy. Learn how to manage your empathetic aspect or nature, nature of your personality, so that you're not just receiving all, especially the negative from others. People with a lot of empathy tend to pick up a lot of the negative energy, and they're looking for the fixer-uppers, the people who they can fix up like a jalopy car or like a weather-beaten house that's been abandoned. Oh wow, people who are empathetic. Oh, this one needs a lot of help. They need this. They're drug addict, alcoholic, gamblers. They've been cheated on. Oh, let me fix this one up. They're looking for fixer-uppers, and they think that they'll become more valuable if they do that. And so people then, by in error, thinking that they're gonna have better self-esteem by helping others, but they're not valuing themselves oftentimes in the process. They're valuing what they can do for others, but they're not valuing themselves. Does that make sense? So be very careful, because oftentimes I find that is the very reason it's difficult to let people go, because you don't have enough valuation or sense of self as strong, and valuing yourself as an independent individual and whole individual, which has what it takes, is smart enough, is caring and loving enough and capable and functioning enough to be involved in a relationship that is healthy, and where there's give and take, giving and receiving, where it's functional. And once you have that, you won't find, once you have a strong and better sense of self, which is an inner job, it's an inside job. Once you have that, you'll find you can deflect those people who will be a drain on you energetically. And then furthermore, when you stay on the path, you'll find that they're no longer attracted to you, and that you're no longer attracted to them, these types of people who will serve as a sort of drain on your heart and chi energy. It's your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today. I hope that these videos do help. Please share, please subscribe, and please donate for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support. Keep your head up, go strong, carry yourself, and develop some, good sense of yourself, and begin to value who and what you are. Have a beautiful day.